name is Raven Metzner. Download this podcast and save the world.
Hey Primatech peeps, so last week we said in the episode that we would be talking to the writer of Heroes Godsend, Joey Falco, but scheduling problems mean we won't be able to do that for this week. Hopefully next week, but this week we managed to get an interview with writer of June 13th Part 2, M Raven Metzner. Enjoy the episode and hopefully we'll have Joey for you next week. This may mean that we will have to push back our alphas, rewatch and podcast by a week or two, but it gives you more time to try and find the episode, so you can join us for Alpha Files. Thanks for downloading and listening, and hope you enjoyed the episode.
Hey Primatech peeps, and welcome back to the Primatech Files, a Southgate Media Group podcast dedicated to all things Heroes Prime and Heroes Reborn. As you heard from the bumper, it's another interview today, this time with Heroes Reborn writer M Raven Metzner. Welcome!
Hey, how you doing?
Hey, thanks for taking the time to talk to me. First things first, most importantly, that I have to ask is, I was looking on your Twitter a little bit earlier, and I saw something that we need to talk about.
Okay.
Pokemon Go, level 5. What level are you at now?
Let's see. I'm now at level, I think it's level 15.
Killing it. And
Killing it.
The most important question.
Yeah.
Which team did you choose?
Oh, well, I didn't realize the importance of my team. my 20-year-old son, Orion, who is a very big Pokemon fan, has been playing for years, explained it to me after the fact, but I'm happy with what I chose. I'm Team Mystic.
Oh, okay then.
So, what does that mean?
I'm Team Valor. So...
Okay. What I understand is that Team Mystic, we evolve, right? Team Valor is all about is about powering up quickly, and you guys are big fighters.
Yeah.
I'm also. I mean, look, I've often said to my son and gotten shouted down that I would go Slytherin. So I'm not looking to be on the hero team necessarily.
Okay, so let's start off with can you just introduce yourself to our audience?
Sure. My name is Raven Metzner. I'm a writer-producer living in Los Angeles, although I'm from New York City. I spent most of my life actually in New York. I've been in LA for 3 years. The past few years I've been working on American show Sleepy Hollow, and I also was lucky enough to spend some time working on Heroes Reborn, which was really lovely for me because I've had a long relationship with Tim Kring, and he and I worked on a web project together called Daybreak a few years ago. That was a lot of fun, really exciting. And since then we also developed a project at Sci-Fi that didn't move forward based on H.G. Wells' First Men on the Moon. And then last year we actually co-wrote something together, which sadly is not moving forward, for Fox called Mars, which was all about a real sort of hard science version of an Elon Musk type billionaire sending a ship full of people to the Red Planet. So I've gotten to work in the writers' room with Kring, and I've gotten to write with him as a team and develop things with him. But the ultimate, for me, one of the most ultimate pleasures I've ever had was, having been a gigantic fan of the Heroes series, was to get the chance to spend some time on Heroes Reborn. That was, for me, was just a pinnacle of my career, and I really just as a fanboy and a geek, I just couldn't. I can't tell you how exciting it was to be able to be there in the writers' room and also then to get to write an episode. It was just unbelievably great.
You watched and you were a big fan of the original series. So who was who was your favorite character?
I don't know. I went back and forth. I mean, I think like a lot of people, I was an early adopter to the Hiro Nakamura club. I always liked watching him and Ando in their sort of side stories. I loved watching Sylar, and I think he was truly terrifying. But he was one of my favorite characters early on as well, because I thought that it was just it's so great to see a really well done, well acted villain, and he was really deep and interesting. So Hero and Sylar, and Peter, of course. I mean, who wouldn't love him? But I was a big fan of a lot of the characters, but I think that it was mostly, at first, I'd say I'm a kind of a Hero guy.
Yeah, aren't we all? We all love. He was one of the great things about that first season. One of the great things. There were
Yeah.
numerous great things. So did you have any favorite particular kind of episodes that stick out in your mind from the kind of first incarnation?
Um, the back in time to the diner with
Hmm.
Hero and his
Okay.
that whole backstory. I'm trying to remember the name of that episode. I absolutely I love that one. And yeah, I think that was probably my favorite single episode. I think like a lot of people, I really love the energy of the first season,
Hmm.
and really was that's where I really I think in later seasons there were arcs that I loved, and I loved the whole the Fly
Okay. Yeah.
episode.
Yeah.
And, there's lots of things I really that I loved individually. In the later seasons, but I think that first run was for a lot of people. I know
Hmm.
it felt similarly. That was really what sort of hooked me into the world of the
Yeah.
show.
So let's start at the beginning. And how did you get started in the business?
I was writing fiction and always sort of wanted to work in either film or television. And I had a friend, Stu Zickerman, who was a feature writer,
Hmm.
and we started writing together. And we pitched an idea together for a Jackie Chan movie that took place on the World Trade Center called Nosebleed. He was a window washer on the World Trade Center, and that was our first. We sold that movie together many years ago, and we wrote features together for about 10 years, and then we got sort of excited about television, and we ended up selling two pilots to Bad Robot, J.J. Abrams' company, right around the year when Lost was up and running, and we got very excited by the idea of television because it was much more collaborative, and
Hmm.
we were able to produce, and so as well as just write. So that sort of got us into TV, and then after a few years later, after my partnership, we have sort of run its course. Although Stu and I are best friends, we sort of have a little bit different interests, and I'm more of the nerd and geek
Hmm.
kind of genre guy. So I went on to work on move out to LA, and have since I've worked on a lot of interesting shows. Like I said, Sleepy Hollow,
Hmm.
Falling Skies, and Heroes Reborn. And I so that's sort of the nuts and bolts of it.
How much of a hand did you have in the development of like Heroes Reborn? Because I've seen your name on like one of the computer games. You've obviously
Oh, yeah.
produced a couple of the episodes, like co-produced some of the episodes, and obviously written. Is there like one specific aspect of those that you really enjoy doing, or is it just a happy mesh of everything?
Well, I was lucky enough to because I said Kring and I have been I've had the pleasure of developing with him and working
Mm.
with him over the past few years. So I sort of knew way ahead that
Okay.
the Heroes Reborn was a possibility, and had many conversations with him
Mm.
about, and sort of was a sounding board, and listened to a lot of his ideas, and talked through a lot of really interesting stuff with him.
Mm.
And then when because I was staffed on Sleepy Hollow, I wasn't able to be there for the first couple of months of the Heroes Reborn sort of writers' room
Mm.
until my show went on hiatus. So when my show went on hiatus, I sort of literally left my office, got in a car, drove to the Heroes office, and set up shop over there, and jumped into the story breaking around episode 5,
Mm.
and was very involved in the breaking of episodes 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. And then I had to go back to Sleepy Hollow.
Mm.
So while I followed along with the first few episodes and caught up to them, and then again watched the last few as a fan,
Mm.
it's really the middle part of the season that I was a part of breaking, and then I was a big part of that was breaking the two time travel
Yeah.
episodes, right? Writing the second one, which is just a blast.
Mm. Definitely. Did you have a hand in the computer game? It was the
Yeah, no, I
first
did.
one.
I did actually. Both the Enigma and
Okay.
both games actually, and Gemini. I very early on, Tim asked me if I wanted to sort of be the correspond with the team that was making the game, and
Mm.
make sure that there was a parity between the show and the game. And then very quickly, once we had heard the pitch for what they were planning to do, they sort of said, hey, why don't you, come up with more story? Because, video games are very different. They're, as opposed to coming with story first, usually you come with a game mechanic first.
Yeah.
And there was a really interesting game mechanic for both the Enigma game and the Gemini game. So we sort of had to build story around it. And then, so I because there was a lot going on, I kind of grabbed Joey Falco, who was a young writer on Heroes Reborn, and asked him if he wanted to jump on and help me out. And then I wrote Gemini, and I wrote like a story document for both. And then I wrote Gemini, and he wrote Enigma, and we sort of traded back and forth. And so together we sort of crafted the scripts. A lot of the details in the actual game, some of the details came from the developer. So I mean, there was a couple of little things that were Easter eggs that we threw in, and a few things that were Easter eggs that they sort of contributed to the games.
So you won't know what those pesky WH initials are in the Enigma game.
They might, if it's the ones I'm talking about, were they the ones that are in a room full of jars and all that? So the jars were meant to, I can tell you a little bit about it. Those jars are meant to hold different genetic mixes for combinations of superpowers, because the powers in the games are, some of the powers are given through birth, and others are sort of given to you through these serums. So, TK meant telekinesis. So WH was meant to be some sort of power. And I was looking at my emails trying to find out what that might be, but I think that was the intention. I haven't even got to so it's some sort of power set. If I find out more about it, I'll let you know.
Oh, awesome! Because we always we thought it might be wound healing or something like that, but that was one of the ones that, because I think we picked out what the other kind of ones were, but that was the one that was kind of.
It very much could be. It could be because it might have been some version of cheerleader serum.
Yeah,
right?
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
What was it like being asked by Tim to work on Heroes Reborn, as being such a fan?
Well, as I said, it was just an amazing moment for me, because I've gotten to work with Tim. I've gotten to know him as a friend, and he's just such a tremendous, generous writer and creator and human being. He's just a great guy. And so he had always known what a huge fan of Heroes I was from the very first time we sort of had met. And so as it was coming around, I kept saying, I just really hope that I could have an opportunity to work on the series. And he was very, very gracious. Usually it's not often that, a writer can come into middle of a series like that and then leave again. Like, he'd sort of let me come and go in that process and be a part of it, along with the other writers who were also very generous. My friend Peter Elkoff was running the show with Tim and showrunning it with Tim, and he was just fantastic. And it was a great group, and everyone was wonderful. But and I had never been in a writer's room with Tim before, and so getting to sit and talk with him about Heroes after was just mind blowing. It was fantastic.
Was there any kind of research that you did before to get into the Heroes Reborn mood?
Well, I'd watched all the I'd watched every episode previously, and I'd read a bunch of the comic books. But there was a few comics I hadn't read, so I went back and read those, and then I watched the first season again just to sort of reboot my head into the tone of Heroes. More than anything, and then that was pretty much it. I mean, we had a lot of people there who had worked on the original series, and there was a brain trust of people who knew the details. It was more about just getting back to that tone, because it's such a unique thing to break story, because you in Heroes, there's sort of like this anthology of different stories all happening at the same time. Until the stories come together, it's a very different way of making television stories. So. Just getting my head back in there. Is
there a particular episode from Heroes Reborn that you really enjoyed?
I love the two-parter, the back in time two-parter. That was it was a gas working on them. I thought the team that wrote the episode before mine, where it did a Puff and Corey did
Yeah.
They did a phenomenal job, and it was a gas to break. It was also one of those things where it was a
Mm.
very complicated time travel, and like kudos to NBC. We pitched them both episodes back to back, and they kind of said, "Wow, it all makes sense. Do it," and we did. So
Nice.
it was really cool.
Was as a fan of the original show, did you feel kind of any pressure, kind of writing the big flashback episode with obviously the big reveal of the twins as well?
I felt, I mean, I don't know about pressure. I felt like pressure in a good way. Like we
Mm.
really wanted to get it right. And you never know until you, as a writer, especially when you're writing, on someone else's property, especially one like this, which is so Tim. It's his vision and his
Yeah.
voice, and so part of the job in writing for a series like this is to be able to write in the voice of the show and to take your own voice and sublimate it to that other voice, and you
Mm.
don't know until you're doing it really, if it's gonna flow or not. Like when you're writing dialogue for Hero, you're like, oh well, can I write dialogue for Hero?
Mm.
And then like I remember I was writing the first scene and he's holding the baby in his arms and he realizes that he's just stolen his powers and he says, "You're a very bad baby." And I was like, once I wrote that line, I was like, oh, okay, I can do
Yeah.
that. I can do that.
On in IMDb, it says that you co-produced some of the episodes. What does that kind of entail?
Oh well, and usually on most shows, for producing one of the episodes, as a producer on like a show like Sleepy Hollow, you
Mm.
go to the location and you go to the set and you're on set and
Okay.
you're unfortunately with Heroes I wasn't able to do that, but we did have a
Okay.
great team. It was up in Toronto. We had a
Mm.
great team. This young writer, Marisha, was up there
Yeah.
shepherding, and Joey Falco went up for later episodes, and
Mm.
there was other writer producers were up there, but I wasn't able, sadly, on
Yeah.
these episodes to go up there.
Okay.
So I didn't see the episode until I watched it on television.
What was it like seeing like the kind of that episode?
It was
Uh,
awesome. I mean,
yeah.
there's always some changes that happen in between. So
Mm.
there was some surprises for me as well. I didn't know were going to happen. Some story moved around,
Mm.
but all in all, I had a blast. I thought it was fantastic.
This is kind of off topic, but was the idea of Quentin being the kind of the butterfly? How did that break? And did you have like your own kind of version of what happened in this kind of alt universe to kind of make him?
Zach Crayley wrote the online
Dark Matters? Yeah.
prequel, yeah, Dark Matters, and a lot of that sort of story went to him.
Mm.
And that character we have many, 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 many different breaks of
Mm.
what would happen, how he changed, and what the time travel meant for
Mm.
him. We Also, there was lots of different versions of the time travel. There was a version once upon a time where after the time travel episodes, we sort of rebooted again, and the show was entirely different, and everyone had
Okay.
changed. So we ended up with smaller changes afterwards, but yeah, I wasn't as involved in the
No.
Quentin stuff as Zach was.
Is there any particular character from the kind of newer characters who you kind of not
I
identified with, but who you loved?
I love Katana Girl. I was
Yeah.
there for her first sort of when we cast her. She came in, and I was lucky enough to get brought to the casting to
Mm.
watch her. No one had met her. They'd seen her on tape, and I got
Yeah.
to see her for the first time as she performed a scene, and
Mm.
she was there with her sword sensei. She's a sword fighting.
Yeah.
She's a sword fighter. She was there with her sword sensei, and they did this sort of live action battle sequence on the lot, and it was mind blowing. It was great. I think she's fantastic. I love the Vengador character. I think that the whole idea of the sort of the legacy character.
Yeah.
I think that was just tremendous
Mm.
and a great idea. And the first Heroes character with a costume, I thought that was great. Loved it.
So obviously you kind of knew what was going to happen the whole way through. What was it like actually watching the episodes, kind of, and especially the kind of finale with the HRG sacrifice?
Yeah, I mean, I loved it. I think it was everything it set out to be. It was it was reminiscent of the heroes that we all know and love, and also it sort of took took the series into a new direction and was very sort of widescreen, and I liked a lot of the characters. I thought it was great. A really on a personal note, a really fun thing for me was I went to college with Rhea Kilstead,
Oh,
and so I've known her for a while, and so she and I, we were like in acting classes together in university.
nice.
So when I got the email from her saying she'd just been cast in that role, it was just awesome. So writing for her was a real pleasure. So just watching her on screen for me and having written dialogue for her after, we were two kids in college, I wanted to be a writer and she wanted to be an actress. And there we were, creating for Heroes Reborn. That to me was really the best part.
Awesome. So I think we can start wrapping up. So, do you have any? Well, obviously you've got Sleepy Hollow. Is there anything you can talk about with that or not?
All I can say is that I wrote the finale last year, and it was a very there was a lot of controversy around the finale, and I feel like a lot of our audience, some people in our audience, were very upset by it, and I think I understand completely why, and I think that we you write these episodes and you put so much time and work and there was, I think, a lot of good stuff in that episode, aside from the part that made everybody so upset.
Yeah.
So it was hard for me to watch that happen and be like, people to hate on it so badly. And then also to see, like, the anger spill out into, people hating on people, which I think is always sad. But I feel like a lot of our audience has sort of let that go in the taillights and is now kind of excited to see what's going to come and to see what the further adventures of Ichabod and Jenny and what the world of Sleepy Hollow will be in this new sort of version. And it's been really exciting. It's been a really positive creative experience, and we're here in the room right now breaking stories, and they're great. And I feel like I'm very proud of what we're doing, and I think it's going to be really awesome. So I'm hoping that people who have fans of the show will give it a chance and realize that these are hard decisions for us too. Like we loved the Abby Mills character, we loved writing for her, and we loved Nicole Bahari, and it was very, very difficult for us as well as I'm sure it was even more so for the fans. But it's I think it's hard for people to remember that like we're fans too. Like I was a fan of Heroes and I wrote on Heroes. I'm a fan of Sleepy Hollow. I write on Sleepy Hollow. Like we're not like so I'm very hopeful as a fan of Sleepy Hollow, and I'm also very proud of what we're doing. So I'm hoping people will give it a shot.
Yeah, awesome. Is there anything else you'd like to kind of plug, like your social media or anything like that?
Well, my you can find me on Twitter at M Raven 257. You shout out at me if you have anything you want to say. I'll do my best to answer. Every once in a while we do tweet out from the writers' room here, where we do a little on the same handle. We do some Periscope, sometimes rarely, depending on what's on the boards or not. That's pretty much what's going on right now. And anything else in the future, I hope that I'm always hopeful that there'll be more heroes. I mean, I think one of the things that I remember there was an announcement last year when it came out where they were like, where the press reported it as Heroes Reborn will not be back for a second season. Like there was never a plan to have it be more than one season. So that was a real surprise to everyone. Like, whoa, we're not picked up. Like no one was ever expecting to be picked up. Everyone was what it was. I think that Tim's hope was always like whether it's on television or in movies or on the video game platform that he can find a way to have heroes live on, and I hope that I get to be a part of that because I really love being a part of it in the past.
Yeah, they've just finished the Farah graphic novel or comic issues, which were really good. Is there a kind of character from Heroes Reborn who you'd like to see continued on in kind of a Heroes Reborn kind of 5-issue, whether it be like one of the bigger characters or one of the lesser characters like you'd like to get to know?
I don't know. I would be up for any of that. I mean, to me, it's all about the pitch, like what the take is on the character. Like I really liked the past hearing the past Bengazor story.
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool. I thought Seamus Fahey and I thought he and Joey did a was it Zach and
Zach? It was Zach.
Zach and Seamus. I thought they did a fantastic job with that. I haven't read the Pharaoh one yet. I'll definitely pick that up. I don't know. I mean, it's a good question.
We've been constantly trying to pitch an audio drama with Erica Kravid and Harris Prime because his voice is just so great. So yeah,
I love the Molly character. You know, that's cool. I wish there was maybe a little backstory with her. I always wondered about how she got to the situation we met her in at the beginning of Heroes Reborn. Like, there seemed like there was some cool backstory there to be had. I always thought she was a cool character. Yeah.
Cool. So, thank you for your time, and hope everyone listening to this found this interview entertaining and informative. Remember, you can find our podcast on any podcatcher service, as well as our social media, just by searching the words Primatech Files. And until next time, download the podcast, save the world.